Hello, and welcome to Rough Edges. I'm your host, Sarah Fox. In this podcast, I will guide you through my faith and mental health journey to dispel the stigma surrounding mental illness and to create a voice for those who wish to discover more about these topics. This podcast will not only shed light on mental health issues, but will also reveal the intersection between faith and mental illness. I pray that these themes will bring growth and healing to our communities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rough Edges. Today, I am joined by special guest Monica DiCristina. Monica DiCristina is a therapist with over 15 years of experience in mental health. She runs a private practice in Atlanta, Georgia, serving individuals and couples in therapy. Monica walks with people as they process difficult experiences, helping to bring healing to their relationship with themselves and others. She became a therapist after one changed her life in her early 20s, deciding she wanted to pass along the same hope and healing she experienced. The intersection of her years of therapy experience, her personal journey, and her faith inform her perspective. In addition to her work in the therapy office, Monica carries out her heartfelt mission to collaborate with others in their process of healing, hope, and becoming through her Still Becoming podcast, writing, speaking, and as the co-creator of the Here app. Monica lives in Atlanta with her husband and 3 children, as well as their dog, Sweetie. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So, Monica, just to get an idea of, who you are outside of your bio, what are 3 things that you absolutely cannot live without, and why?
Such a great question. This is a really nerdy mom answer. Water. I'm a big believer in hydrating, and my kids are always rolling their eyes when they have a headache. The first thing I ask is, have you had water? So obviously none of us can live without water, but I notice my body feels so different when I don't have water, and I'm over prescribing it always in my family. I would say the second thing that's more, less superficial, more deep would be my relationships. I really wouldn't be who I am without my husband or without some of my closest friends that have seen me in all different seasons. And then the third thing would be creative expression. That I feel like that's one of the ways I'm made, and I feel like I'm most myself when I'm able to express myself creatively, and that has really evolved over my life. It used to look like painting, and now it looks like writing.
Wow, that's really good. I love the creative expression because I also am a writer, and I don't know where I would be if I didn't have writing in my life. So I definitely empathize with that.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. It changes everything.
Yeah, it really does. So what is your personal experience with mental health?
Well, my personal experience is that I struggled with anxiety and intrusive thoughts and all different sorts of things within that realm for probably 10 years before I actually saw a therapist and got help. And it was, and so when that happens, when you're struggling and you don't have a name for what you're going through, you often then believe other things like there's something wrong with me, I'm this or that, or no one else struggles if people only knew, so with that was a ton of layered shame and feeling really isolated and alone. I was really good at playing the part of having it all together, but I was really struggling inside. So my own journey with mental health finally led me to see a therapist who really, now that I'm a therapist, I understand, I'm like, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's very treatable, but I didn't know that until I saw a therapist, and he really gave me names for what was going on, helped me, and then my own journey with mental health just is why I'm in mental health as a practitioner now.
Wow, I love that. I love the fact that you decided to go into being a therapist because of your experience with the therapist. And I also love what you said about, having it all, acting like you're having it all together. Because I also played that role before I went to therapy because I thought there was nothing wrong with me when there really was, So I'm glad you brought that up because so many times a lot of people do think that they have it all together when really they have a lot of underlying issues that they may not know about or they may not want to address. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. Or they may not know that there's help for what they're dealing with. They may just think, well, this is just the way it is, so I just got to keep going.
Right. That's so true. So you kind of answered this already, but what other factors were there that made you want to become a therapist?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my own journey, as I said, and I think knowing what it's like to feel, I mean, everyone feels differently, so I don't know what it's like to be anybody else, but I do know what it's like to feel alone and in a struggle and to feel deep shame. And so I thought, gosh, if I can do anything in the world, it would be to put my hand in someone else's and help them not feel that aloneness, help them not feel that shame, to make a safe space, even if it's for one person, which, as you know, therapy is one person at a time, to make that safe space to help them find healing, which will be a whole journey. It'll include therapy, but it'll include other things. So I think just creating that safety and helping people know that they're not alone, that's a big driver for me.
Yeah, no, I really love that, especially like you said, is one person at a time,
Exactly.
And you're just helping, if you can help one person, that makes all the difference,
It really does. It really does. And that's one of my good friends is a therapist. When we're teaching together and we're wondering, is this teaching going to work? That's what we always come back to, is just, if it helps one person, then it was worth it.
Yeah, definitely. So what is the HERE app and why is it beneficial to those struggling with mental illness?
Well, the HERE app is a new project, and I'm partnering with someone who had created another app and then wanted to completely redo it. I had done some recording for her for a previous app. And the HERE app is something that we came up with together that would be really bite-sized, just 2 minutes a day way to either ground yourself with a meditation or to explore a topic. So we have one topic a month and then just 2 minutes a day. And the reason for that is because, growing and working on yourself is not always accessible. Most of us are not sitting around with a book all day and journaling, right?
Right.
even though we would like to, that's just not really how it works. And so we have real lives to lead, and we're all trying, on our own journeys. And so that's the big heart behind it, is just 2 minutes. And I've heard that some subscribers binge listen to a few at a time. Some people do it regularly every day, just depends. And so that's the heart, is accessible, something soothing, something that what you're going to get, and you can just go there and rest and learn. And so we have topics like boundaries, or this month we're doing organizing your internal world. And so, as far as it being beneficial for someone with mental illness, I don't know that I can for sure say that this is an annoying therapist answer. Okay, full disclosure. I don't know that I can say it's beneficial to anyone, right? I think that would be up to the listener, because I understand your question completely, but I just don't think that I can guarantee that it would be beneficial. But what I would say it is beneficial is, just something that's a regular routine, something that's soothing for your nervous system, something that helps you be mindful and present in the moment, helps all of us wherever we are with whatever struggle we might be facing.
Wow, I really like that. And I appreciate your answer, because it does really depend on the individual and what they get out of it on a personal level. But yeah, I would say that is very beneficial, and it's just 2 minutes, you know? So
Yeah,
it's not like, you have to take a whole hour out of your day to actually do this. Like, you could do this, whenever you have like 2 minutes, So
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
really good.
thank you. Yeah, that's the whole heart. It's like we all want to grow and learn, but we sometimes don't have more than 2 minutes in a real life.
Right, right. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's very important. So, what was the most difficult aspect of coming up with the decision to create this app?
Mm. Well, I think the most difficult aspect for me when I'm creating anything, whether it's writing an article, my podcast, or this app, is the self-doubt that comes, right? That comes for
Mm-hmm.
all of us, right? When we're creating something, does this matter? Is this dumb? Has this all been said before? Is this
Right.
going to resonate with anyone? Will this make a difference? Does this make sense? Is this a waste of time? And that's just honestly when I just think I've decided to, at this point in my life, bring those doubts along with me when I'm creating anything, because it's just part of the process. So I think that was the biggest obstacle, is like, is anybody going to listen to this? Does this matter? And I think we all run into that no matter what we're creating.
Right, right. No, I definitely agree. And especially it's something where like you're starting something, but you're just like, oh, what is the benefit going to be to the other person? Or like if you're sharing a part of yourself with the world, you're just like, oh, how will people perceive me? Like, what am I going to, say about this particular topic? Or what do I have to say about this particular topic? Like, it's just
Yes.
endless.
It is endless. You're so right. It is endless. And I used to think, well, when I'm no longer doubtful, then I'll do it. And
Yeah.
that day's not coming.
Right?
Yeah.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really true. So, so we're talking about relationships and mental
Mm-hmm.
health on this
Mm-hmm.
season. And so, what would you say is the foundation of a good relationship?
Oh, gosh, it's such a good question. I would say the foundation for a good relationship is emotional safety.
Hmm.
And emotional safety, I think, can be defined in many different ways. But today I'll define it with, obviously consistently it'll be defined in similar ways. But off the top of my head, kind of how I would define emotional safety is reliability. That you're reasonably reliable in a relationship, meaning like, I kind of know what I'm going to get when I see you. Even if you're in a bad mood, if you had a bad day, like I know that you're going to love me and respond to me. So that reliability and that consistency is super important, and trust is super important. That knowing that you are safe with this person, that they are going to keep your secrets, they're going to cry with you when you cry, and they're going to laugh with you when you laugh. And finally, I think a huge part of emotional safety is repair, because we all screw up. We're all going to mess up. We're going to hurt each other's feelings, maybe on purpose if we're mad, or by accident if we're just having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that repair is one of the most important parts of what we would call, a secure attachment. It's really not defined by perfection. It's defined by repair. And so that to me gives me also a lot of peace in relationships, that I know I won't be perfect, unfortunately, but I know that I'm committed to repairing when I mess up.
Yeah, wow. I love that. And I love that it has like different layers to it, like emotional safety. Because like when you hear emotional safety, you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's like really interesting. But it has like a
Yeah.
lot of layers to it where it's like,
Yeah.
that encompasses like you said, being reliable,
Mm-hmm.
being able to repair, and the consistency that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like emotional safety is like, it's such a good word, but sometimes we're like, what does that mean? Really, like, what does that
Yeah.
actually mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. So, as a therapist, what common patterns do you see among adults who have mental health issues and are in relationships? Like whether that be like romantic relationships, friendships, like caregivers or anything, like, what patterns do you see there?
Mm, That's a really good question. And let me think, and I think that I'm going to be an annoying therapist too. Like, I really, because I just know each person listening has such an individual, unique story. And so, I want to be careful with what I say. But I think one of the things that I run into often is people not feeling understood by those in their lives, And so whether that is, struggling with a mental illness or an undiagnosed mental illness, or whether it's struggling because you don't like your job, or you don't like school, I think that's one thing I see a lot. And I think that's common to the human experience, is that, sometimes we just don't feel like the people in our lives that we want more than anything to get us, they don't. And that can be really, really hard and really, really lonely.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that I definitely struggled with, like, especially when I first got diagnosed, because I have bipolar disorder, and, like, my family members, they didn't know, like, how to interact with me, especially when I came home from the hospital, because they were just, like, so cautious about everything, and they're just like, oh, does this offend you? Does this trigger you? Like, are you okay? And I'm just like, you guys aren't really understanding, like, I'm not, like, so easily triggered that you can't really talk to me or have a conversation, it's just like, you can take the pressure off of yourself because, like, you don't have to, like, be so delicate, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like that understanding is kind of like a two-way street, because you can't expect somebody to understand if you don't let them know, like, okay, here's, like, what actually bothers me, or here's how my mania might look at this particular moment, or this is how a bad day looks for me, so don't be alarmed, I'm just having a bad day, And so, just giving that person that information necessary so that they could understand what you're going through is also really important.
I mean, I think what you just described is priceless. I mean, it's such good, wise counsel, right? To educate someone in your life on what it's like to be you and how they can love you best.
Right.
And then on the flip side, on the other end of that, though, comes back to that emotional safety. That hopefully we have at least one person, if not a couple people, that will receive what you just said, will understand when we're saying this is what it means to love me, will really receive that and say, okay, I'm listening. I got it, But I love what you shared. That's so helpful. Yeah,
because a lot of the times it's just like, people aren't mind readers. Like, we can't read each other's minds.
True.
Like, we don't know what we're feeling on a given day. Like, the other person may not know what you're feeling. And so it's like you're kind of giving them, like, a higher expectation when you're just like, oh, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, but you're not giving them the information. Because I find that a lot of the times, especially with having a mental illness, it's like the other person doesn't really know what that's like. So you gotta tell them, like, okay, here's what that looks like in my life, and here's when there's an emergency, and then here's when it's just like a regular bad day, like, so
yes, that's such an important distinction.
Most definitely. So do you mind giving, like, one more pattern that you see, like,
let me think. Well, I think I would say not knowing how to help, which is a little bit going with with what you just said. But so if someone, if I'm working with, say, a son or a daughter or a spouse of someone who's struggling with a mental illness, or who's struggling with an addiction, or just struggling in any way, oftentimes what I hear is, I don't know how to help. I don't know what to do. I don't know, where to get help. And I think that one of the things that we as humans do when we don't know how to help is we retreat, and we don't pursue the person, And I'm sure, of course, there's times for that when there needs to be boundaries up, but those aren't the times I'm referring to. That even when someone's in grief, we often retreat because we don't want to say the wrong thing. right? We don't
Yeah.
we don't want to upset them. And I think that I understand why we do that. And I of course have done that same mistake, but I think we really need each other. And so I think that would be one pattern that we retreat when maybe we should pursue, in love.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very true. Because it's just like, you don't want to say the wrong thing. Because I've had, like, friends who have been in their own grieving processes. And I'm just like, well, how do I be there for that person? Like, how do I show up for that person? And not, like, try to be a hero, but, like, just be there for that person. And it's just kind of hard, because you're just like, I don't know, like, what to do in that particular moment to help them. And if you're like me, like, when you see somebody crying in front of you, you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, so it's, it kind of, it gets you in that, like, awkward moment where it's just like, okay, do I just sit here and, like, allow them to just cry and vent and not say anything back? Or, like, do I give advice? But, like, what type of advice? So, that's a really significant thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many thoughts. We could do a whole podcast on that very thing, right? I mean, that's just,
Yeah. So, Monica, my final question to you would be, what advice do you have for those who are struggling with mental health issues and relationships?
And so, just to make sure that I'm getting the question right and I'm honoring the question, that, those struggling with mental health issues and how that struggle might impact their relationships.
Yeah.
Is that? Okay, yeah. Well, I think the first thing would be to normalize that. Like, when we're dealing with anything, whether it's a physical diagnosis, say if you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, right? Or if you're diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, it's going to impact every part of your life, right? And I think that we forget that and we minimize that when we're talking about mental health issues. That of course it's gonna. We're whole beings, and so everything is going to impact our relationships with ourselves and with other people. So first, to just normalize that, and then I would say, what else would impact with their relationships? Maybe. I don't know. I have to think more about that. Definitely to normalize it, and I know to do what you need to do. I think that one of the things that when we're getting help for ourselves, whether it's physically, mentally, whatever, so often we're so worried about the people in our lives and what so and so will think about it, if they'll be upset about it, if they're going to be mad at us, if they're going to be disappointed in us. And I would say that if you're not okay and well, that's the most important thing. You've got to be okay and well. So that's what I would really, really say too. Normalize it, and then, keep that in mind, that your health and your well-being is first, and then to surround yourself with relationships that support that. And if they don't support that, that's a grief process, right? It's a grief process to let those go and to only keep relationships that are, helping you maintain your own well-being and mental health.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question? I know.
That was good. That was great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, Monica, I want to thank you so much again for, joining me today. And guys, check out her podcast. It's called Still Becoming. And she also has a kids podcast called Still Becoming Kids. So check those out when you get the chance. And stay tuned for more empowering episodes on Rough Edges. Thank you for listening to Rough Edges. Feel free to follow this podcast on Instagram at rough.edges.podcast or visit my blog at sarahifox.com. If you have any questions or further suggestions on how to make this podcast grow, you can email at rough.edges.podcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening and have a wonderful day.